Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dream Leapers. I'm your host, Harriette Cole. As always, honored to have you with me here today. And I have a very special guest who is coming to talk to us about something that I talk about actually a lot on the other broadcast, Dream Leapers Inspiration. We talk about the power of intention, the power of, engaging your consciousness as you move through your life. So it's really nice to have someone here on this platform to talk about it as well. Let me tell you who he is. We are joined by someone who has mastered the art of connecting and building community. David Homan is a relationship strategist, connector, composer, and the founder and CEO of Orchestrated Connecting. Great name, right? A global network of high-impact change makers, bringing together principals, activists, artists, entrepreneurs, and more. His very first book, Orchestrating Connection, How to Build Purposeful Community in a Tribal World, co-authored with Noah Askin, is set to be released this summer, very soon. And it is a powerful roadmap for cultivating intentional relationships. David doesn't just talk about connection, he lives it. Whether he's building trust between unlikely allies, mentoring impact-driven leaders, or scoring original compositions for dance and theater, David uses his gifts to help reshape how communities form, grow, and support one another. His popular give and give philosophy reminds us that when we stop keeping score in our relationships, hear that? Keeping score. When we stop, trust deepens, communities flourish, and unexpected value circulates through the ecosystem. So David is here today to talk about all this with us, to share how we can all become better connectors, not just for influence, but for impact. Please join me in welcoming David Homan. Hi, David.
Hi, Harriet. Thank you so much for having me on. I love that you emphasized, by the way, that thing of keeping score. I've been trying to tell my kids who are currently 8 and 11 every single day. I tried to keep score with my younger brother, Danny. In the end, we both lost because we kept score. So we're trying to warm them up to that idea.
And we live in a culture that values keeping score, which is why I think it's so interesting what you have spent so many years working on, this notion of building community, not like you differentiate in your book between networking and building community. And I think that I'd like for us to talk about that a little bit in this sense. We are taught, people who are working in the business world, that it is important to network. You have to know how to network. This is one of those key functions that everybody should be good at. And you push back on the traditional understanding of networking in a more holistic way. That, what if we support each other and build community with each other rather than, as I'm climbing the ladder, if I meet you, I might get to you. Can you explain what the difference between building community and networking is in your philosophy?
Absolutely. Just got to think of it this way. Networking, it's what's in it for you. Community, it's who has your back. In the long term, everything that matters, Harriet, is who has your back, who will speak positively about you, who will create opportunities, who actually knows you, what you stand for, knows your value system. Networking, there's been many variations of it, from people handing out business cards to more sophisticated cold outreach on LinkedIn. In the end, when anyone wants to work through you to somebody else, they don't see you. Your community sees you.
I think that's so important, when speaking about LinkedIn, which can be helpful. So all of these platforms can be helpful, but you have just nailed something. I'll give you two examples. Way before LinkedIn, I remember being at an event. I think I was the keynote speaker, and then later we're milling about talking to people, and a young person who was nervous, not an extrovert, wanted to connect with me, but didn't know how to do it, and literally ran up to me with a business card and stuffed it in my pocket. And I felt it. So I turned around and I said, "What are you doing?" Well, I didn't want to interrupt you. So I just said I would put my business card in your pocket. And so I stopped and I said, "What do you think is going to come of this? I didn't even meet you. You just, came around the corner, put it in my pocket. What did you expect to happen. And so, why not have the courage to say hello and see what might happen as opposed to stealthily sneaking it in a pocket? Well, fast forward to what happens a lot on LinkedIn. People ask to connect to you, and then there's this hard sell for something. You don't even know them. You haven't met them. Hi, it's nice to meet you. And can I sell you this? I find it quite off-putting.
It's so much that. Let me tell you a fun anecdote. So I was with a very close friend who's part of a major, major billionaire family. And we were at Milken's annual conference. And we were talking. Everyone would look at his last name, want to get through him to his dad. We went to the bathroom. We did what one does, and then we washed our hands. And this guy saw us, saw his name, started chatting us up, talking about his deals. We finished toweling off. He walked out. He wanted to shake our hands, and we looked at him. We were like, dude, you didn't even wash your hands. You were there with us trying to pitch us and showed us an unsanitary behavior. Thank you, goodbye. He was so focused on that world of what he had to get, he forgot something so basic, which is, how am I going to recommend something to anyone I work with or know if that person is just going to accost you at a urinal and then not even follow suit and wash their hands with part of it? So we washed our hands of him.
That's a very clear example of when it doesn't work. But David, we are in a culture that says, get that elevator pitch, figure out how you're going to say about yourself really fast, make the best of the moment, seize the day, all of that thinking that's very urgent. And I'm just wondering, what do you recommend to people who are feeling that urgency? And also, right now, there's so much uncertainty in the economy. There are a lot of people who are in transition, who may be out of work, who, all the things that are happening that create somewhat a not so quiet desperation. What do you say to people who are yearning for real connection, but are approaching it completely wrong?
Our greatest strengths are our vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. I think a little jokingly about the person who dropped their card in your pocket. I thought, well, did you learn next time to not have open pockets? But more than that, what if they had actually had that vision to say, my name is Sean, you never met me, but I will be intriguing in your life. It's why I was able to get so close, leave a card in your pocket and walk away. You would have called them then.
Absolutely.
But otherwise, we live with these barriers, Harriette, that are just so arbitrary, because we have our business world, we have our friend world, we have what we want in life, and we're so afraid to say it. We're so afraid to say the challenges of it. One of the major practices around this world that Noah Askin and I call, two of the major principles of curiosity and vulnerability, is just fishing with vulnerability. I have an 11-year-old daughter afraid of switching from schools to go to middle school. I have an 87-year-old father who's once again having a quality of life decrease that may be permanent. And I am sitting here launching a startup, launching a book, going global with my network to help people with enough to fall back on, but not enough to fall back on for long enough. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't know what to do if this doesn't work out. Those are 3 real things I'm facing now.
Yep.
How hard is it for you to share that, for anyone listening to share that, to just see where you can meet somebody eye to eye and start at a whole different level than the outcome you want from a first interaction?
And vulnerability and transparency, I think, are really what you're getting at. A lot of times people feel that if they share too much, that it could knock them down, could knock them off the plate, so to speak. And I think it depends upon how you share it too.
It does. But if you could give somebody something,
a very balanced way, there's this, there's this, there's this, and here I am doing my best. And you shared something in your book, which I think you alluded to just now. And a lot of people who are in my audience are in transition. Mm-hmm. They're either, it may be work transition, family transition, relationship transition, or just it's time for me to do something else and I have to figure it out. I need to find the courage to leap into my dreams. That's who my audience is. And you say something in your book that is so common for people that I come across, which is something happened that kind of pushed you to make a change, which was, I believe you said you lost your job at some point.
Yeah, I was running an incredible film company and COVID hit, Hollywood died, and then the family I was working with, who were close friends, lost a very important family member. And necessity propelled me to have to refigure things out. Why in the heart of COVID?
Right.
Well, I can't complain about it because I was out in the Hamptons during COVID. You always have to have that reality check.
Yeah, sure.
But it was my responsibility to figure out how to make my world what was best for my kids. And when I came back I wrote my network, my community. I said, here's what's happened to me. Would anyone take a call? 144 20-minute long meetings later, I had heard from almost everyone who loved and trusted me what they actually thought I was great at. And I finally got it. That was where my community first had my back to make this transition.
That's powerful. And that takes a lot of courage because you're at your most vulnerable. You have children. It could be, even if it's just yourself, how do you take care of yourself? When you have children and you have young children, the stakes feel so incredibly high. And when, for whatever the reasons are, when you lose your job, no matter what the reason is, you feel really vulnerable. And you're, it can crush your ego a bit. It does a lot of things. It creates fear. For you to reach out to your network in that way took a lot of courage, I think. What did you do to prepare to talk to them so that your approach would be welcomed?
When I think back about it, and you're bringing me back to a horribly traumatic time in my life where I was sitting in a spare bedroom, actually at the desk I am now and the chair I am now, and trying to figure it out and knowing there was a time limit to my ability to make this work. I sat first in the first 5 minutes of a call about me to make sure the people who were taking time for me were doing okay. I can't not do it. Sure. But how do you hear somebody unless you know what they're coming from and how they're saying it to you?
That's right.
And then, I'd spent enough time that I didn't just say, well, what do you think I should do? Like, I actually gave people the dilemma and the choices that I were facing. And I said, I don't know if I should go back into this type of role, if I should look for this. And every single person said, I don't understand. I thought what we're talking about now is everything that you do. You connect people, you run a community. You're my first call to get the intro I need. You're my top strategist to get to the right person, but knowing how to do it. And you always encourage me to ask with more clarity, to be more purposeful and intentional. What's your problem? And the problem was I didn't know how to make it work because I had to ask for myself.
Sure.
And that is so different for everyone who's chasing their dreams but has felt like their worth has gone down because of a work situation, a family situation that pulled them away, what we all call, who live with this every day, life, and every part of life is a transition. Yep. The only security I had and what I had given to others for so many years. And once I saw that, as somebody who everyone sees leading the charge and the thought leader in this, I realized how dense I was and how I let my fear get the best of me. And everyone reinforced that my generosity would be reciprocated. It ended up working, but I'd put in a decade and a half of work to get there.
That's excellent. Hey guys, this is Dream Leapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with David Homan, who has written his very first book. It's called Orchestrating Connection: How to Build Purposeful Community in a Tribal World. The title, first of all, Orchestrated Connection is so beautiful, but how to build purposeful community in a tribal world. So there are many things as I was reading your book, David, that struck me. But in the beginning, you take us into an experience of an orchestra and how an orchestra kind of works and all of the ways in which the instruments work together and the people performing with the instruments. And it took me back to, I used to play the violin. and went all the way up through high school in the all-city orchestra. I'm from Baltimore, and it was really terrifying, but also fun. But
Mm-hmm.
that terrifying in the sense of we have to be together. The strings have to play together. And then the other ones are playing all these different instruments that are playing. And certainly it's almost like magic when it comes together well. And as a young person learning, I remember that there was the need for so much practice in order to become in alignment with what